Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech and welcome to the next part of my 70,000 rupee 2060 Super gaming PC build. Today we're going to be testing out how this gaming PC actually performs with regards to, well, gaming. What are the frames we get, what are the FPS that we get, and I'll also explain what parts we exactly used for this build and why we chose these parts. Now, if you do end up liking what you see with this video, please don't forget to turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Also leave a comment below to let me know if you'd want to see more videos about PC builds and PC peripherals. With that said, let's now get this video started. Let's begin with the processor. We've gone with the Ryzen 5 3600, a 6-core 12-thread processor. The reason we went with this is because of the budget. At this budget, the 3600, it offers good value and it also offers enough horsepower not just to game, but maybe even handle a render or two. Now, as you've been seeing so far, CSGO runs quite flawlessly, averaging over 264 frames. Now moving on to GTA 5, which happens to be quite CPU intensive, again, it continues to perform really well. With all settings maxed out, it's still hitting about 130 FPS in game. Now, while not all games are this CPU intense, most modern games do require or at least make use of 4 cores, and in the near future we are going to be seeing AAA titles that would perform better on 6 cores and utilize simultaneous multi-threading a lot more than what is happening today. So having a 6-core 12-thread processor is also a little bit of future-proofing that you could go for. Now switching to some Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and our 70K build continues to perform really smoothly here. Average frame rates are in the high 130s and 1% lows are in the hundreds. It's a really good showing considering that this is a recently released title. Now, one thing to note here, all the FPS numbers that you're seeing on screen, these are completely stock, so stock fan curves for both the CPU and GPU, and we are also using the stock RateSpire cooler with the 3600. You should be able to eke out a little bit more if you were to overclock, but hey, I thought I'd leave everything close to stock to give you guys an idea of the baseline performance. Now the next game for today, it's Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Once more, our frame rates are right up there even with the highest preset. They average about 115 FPS. Now the motherboard that we opted for is the B450 Aorus Elite gaming motherboard. We went with this one because it had decent VRM cooling and good power delivery. While you can opt for a cheaper B450 board from any other manufacturer, do keep in mind two things. There's a lot of overclocking headroom with the Ryzen 5 3600, but in order to leverage that, you need a motherboard with good power delivery, cool VRMs, and of course, a decent aftermarket cooler. Again, a lot of overclocking potential depends on the CPU lottery, but that's content for a different video. For now, we are running this with a Gigabyte 240GB SSD, two 8GB sticks of ADATA DDR4 memory for a total of 16 gigs at 3000 MHz in dual channel. Ryzen loves fast memory, so going for faster memory makes the most sense here. That said, do check the speeds that your motherboard can support and make sure you enable the higher speeds from your BIOS, as it may default to lower presets. Now, we use the water-cooled Spectrix RAM here mostly because that is something we had lying around. But you should probably go for something cheaper. Now for the GPU, we went with Gigabyte's RTX 2060 Super. It's comparatively affordable, it's almost as good as the 2070, and it can even push about 70 FPS on average with Red Dead Redemption 2. 1% lows are also at an impressive 44 FPS, so it was a really smooth experience all around. Generally, I would suggest lowering the settings from Ultra to enjoy Red Dead Redemption 2, but with the 2060 Super, you don't actually need to do that. For 1080p, this card can be a bit of an overkill, but if you love pushing all the graphic settings as high as they would go and still want excellent frame rates or have a high refresh rate monitor, then this is the card for you. In fact, even if you're gaming at 1440p, the 2060 Super can push very high in most titles. Oh, and yeah, it's also got ray tracing. Talking about which, here's Metro Exodus with ray tracing enabled, and we are getting around 113 FPS in the first area of the game. By the way, we set the RTX levels to high and not ultra here because ultra, it wasn't performing great there. But then RTX is quite intensive. The next game on this list is everyone's favorite, PUBG. At ultra settings, we have I mean, we were averaging around 108 FPS and we noticed no frame tearing or lag spikes while panning around. Now for the PSU, we've gone with the Gigabyte P850. If you want to save a bit of cash, then you don't have to go for a fully modular PSU like this. I'm working with Gigabyte for this build, and modular PSUs are easier to build with, which is why I chose to go this route. If you care about cable management, then modular PSUs are worth the extra money. But you know, if it's price to performance that you're looking at, if it's value for money that you're looking at, you could go for something else. For the case, I went with the C300, but again, C200 is also another choice if you want to keep the cost exactly around 70,000 rupees. The reason I chose the C300 here, since it's roomy, looks nice, has a decent array of front I/O, including an HDMI port that we can use for VR headsets like the Oculus Rift or Vive. You know, given they have a HDMI wired connection, and it is much easier to plug into the front of the case than snake the wire all the way back to where the GPU is. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this is Apex Legends that you've been seeing so far. Again, all settings pushed to the max. Our build is churning out a buttery smooth 138 FPS. So summing things up, our build does really well with most games. It averages over 100 FPS in almost everything we threw at it. Even the 1% lows were around the 80 FPS mark for the most part. Of course, the noticeable exception to this was Red Dead Redemption 2, but it happens to be the most demanding game out there, and it's not even that well optimized for PCs. So if you're looking to play any AAA title for this year or the next couple of years at ultra or very high settings, then this hardware combination, it should deliver. And even for editing workloads like 4K footage or handling something like 3D workloads in Maya, this CPU, it should have you covered. One word though, if you are looking to make this into an editing rig, you might want to bump down the GPU to say a 2060 and instead use that extra money to go for double the RAM, 32 gigs at least, and even throw in a 512 gig SSD and a few slower HDDs for mass storage. In fact, mass storage is something that I think most gamers would also want. So tack on a 7200 RPM hard disk from Seagate or Western Digital. Now this is not part of the 70K build because hey, this is something you can actually build the PC and later on add to, which is why I didn't include it here. So I guess that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed my 70K PC build. If you have any questions or queries, do leave them in the comments below. And thumbs up, thumbs down based on whatever you felt about it. Subscribe, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. And thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4E Tech, and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.